Let's talk about the road back, the resurrection, the return. The journey isn't over when the hero claims the reward. In fact, in a way, it's only just beginning. The final 3 stages of the hero's journey, the road back, the resurrection, and the return, are where the story achieves its most profound emotional impact. Here, the stakes are the highest. The transformation is complete. And the audience feels the weight of every struggle that came before. These stages are essential because they close this circle. Story structure is a circle. That's something that's really important to remember. Without them, a story feels unfinished, like a door left ajar. When is a door not a door? When it's ajar. These are the final pieces that turn an adventure into a heroic saga. Here's how they work. The road back. Stage 9. The hero returns to the ordinary world, but the path home is fraught with new challenges. The resurrection, stage 11. The final and most dangerous confrontation. The hero faces death one more time, climax, but this time they come back changed. The return, stage 12. The hero comes home, but not as they were before. That's the crucial element here. They bring back the elixir, something of value to share with others. Let's go back into these stages in a little bit more detail. Stage 10, the road back. The road back is where the energy of the story kicks up again. After the breather moment of claiming the reward, the hero is reminded that they still have to get home. They've got to get out of trouble. It's not just about winning. It's about surviving the journey back. And back doesn't necessarily mean back home to their initial town or village or place. Back means to their homeostatic state. This stage often features chase scenes, sudden reversals, renewed obstacles. Sometimes it's an external pursuit, like Darth Vader chasing Luke Skywalker as he tries to escape the Death Star. Other times it's an internal shift, where the hero must come to terms with what they've just experienced emotionally, psychologically. Christopher Vogler highlights the hot air balloon moment in The Wizard of Oz. Dorothy believes she's on her way home in a balloon piloted by the wizard himself. But Toto leaps from her arms just to chase a cat. Dorothy chases after Toto and in doing so misses her ride home. The road back, as it turns out, won't be as simple as floating away. She'll have to face one last challenge to return. Stage 11, the resurrection. This is that final climactic test, resurrection. This is where the hero faces death one last time. But unlike the ordeal, which was often a confrontation with an external force, the resurrection tests the hero's internal growth, a test of their mettle. This is often referred to as the second death. The hero has already died, symbolically, during the ordeal, but now they must face it once more to prove to themselves and to the world that they've truly changed. Think of Simba facing Scar on Pride Rock. It's not just a physical battle. It's the completion of Simba's emotional arc. He finally steps into the role of king, something he's been running from since his father's death. In The Drawing of the Three by Stephen King, we see this exact same idea play out with Roland. His physical and emotional limits are tested as he trudges forward, exhausted and ill from infection. Here's a precise scene. Roland thought very well. I am a new man with no food, with 2 less fingers and 1 less toe than I was born with. I am a gunslinger with shells which may not fire. I am sickening from a monster's bite and have no medicine. I have a day's water if I'm lucky. I may be able to walk perhaps a dozen miles if I press myself to the last extremity. I am, in short, a man on the edge of everything. Which way should he walk? He had come from the east. Could not walk west without the powers of a saint or a savior. That left north and south. North, that was the answer, his heart told. There was no question in it. North. The gunslinger began to walk. Resurrection in action, it's not flashy. It's not a grand battle necessarily, but it's a clear physical manifestation of internal transformation. Roland in the Dark Tower, despite his wounds, his exhaustion, and his growing sense of hopelessness, chooses to walk. He moves forward not because he knows he'll win, but because he refuses to quit. This is really one of the purest expressions of the resurrection stage. Another classic example, again, we'll go back to The Matrix, where Neo faces Agent Smith for the final time. At first, Neo is shot and dies, and for a moment, we believe the hero has failed. But then he's reborn as the One. His death is literal, but his rebirth is symbolic. His newfound power is clear when he stops bullets midair with a single gesture. The resurrection stage is your last chance as a storyteller to raise the stakes to their peak. If your audience doesn't feel like this could be it, then you're missing the emotional climax of your story. Stage 12, the final stage, the return. At last, the hero returns home, but home isn't the same, and neither are they. This is one of the most misunderstood stages of the hero's journey. People often think of returning home as a literal journey back to a familiar place, but that's not the point. The return is about expressing and highlighting and showing that transformation. The world may look the same, but the hero has changed, and that change affects everything they see. Think of Frodo returning to the Shire after destroying the ring. The hobbits are still dancing and singing, but Frodo isn't the same. He's seen too much. He's carried the weight of darkness. He can't slip back into his old life, which is why he ultimately sails to the undying lands. In Vulgar's words, the journey was real and it changed them forever. One of the most famous returns is from The Wizard of Oz, like we were just talking about. Dorothy wakes up at home surrounded by Aunt Em, Uncle Henry, and the farmhands. The world is the same as it was before, but Dorothy sees it differently. She sees her friends differently. She says there's no place like home. But she's not talking about Kansas. She's talking about herself. She's changed from the inside. Now let's talk about how to apply all this briefly to your own writing. Here's how to use the road back, the resurrection, and the return in your own stories. Make the road back dangerous. Add a chase, a ticking clock, or a twist. Again, simple. Just make it not too easy. You are not your protagonist's friend. You're his enemy as the writer. Make the resurrection transformational. The hero has to confront their fear, weakness, internal flaws, and then try to make the return bittersweet. The hero doesn't go back unchanged. Something is lost, something is gained. The road back is where momentum builds. The resurrection is where the heart bursts. The return is where it all comes home transformed. If you nail these 3 final stages, your story is going to stick with people. It will be memorable. Next up, we're going to talk about the inciting incident, that call to adventure. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail because it is so important, where you're going to learn how to start your story with momentum, energy, and urgency. And this, particularly the inciting incident, really applies specifically and universally to all different forms of business writing. We'll see you there in a few moments.
Go behind the scenes at one of New York's fastest growing digital advertising agencies. Learn the tactics that we deploy for our clients every single day. You're going to be able to take that information, the best practices, the testing frameworks, and apply them today in your own campaigns and see extraordinary results. Join the Adventure Academy and learn digital advertising from the #1 and #3 most influential PPC experts in the world. They don't teach this stuff in advertising school.